Here today to talk to us about knowing the risks of investing and not investing, we are joined by Gabe Rockers. He's with Edward Jones. Gabe, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me and allowing me to sponsor this segment.
Of course. So I love today's topic. Investing obviously involves risk, and so does not investing. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's start with the risks associated with investing. We're going to talk about a few categories. Let's start with stocks, Gabe.
Yeah, so in reality, life is full of risk. You cannot be an investor without taking on some level of risk. But as planners for our clients, it's our job to understand comfort with risk, time horizon needs to the goals, and to manage that risk effectively. If you start with stocks or stock-based mutual fund investments are equity or ownership instruments where there's a risk that you could experience a decline in your investment amount, or what we would call principal risk. Those investments are going to move based upon different factors tied to the economy, like corporate profits, like consumption or consumer habits, and maybe even some headline risks like management changes, and the uncertainty around those could create the potential for a declining value or risk on your initial principal.
So that
if we shift, go ahead.
That's important to know, is that often, there will always be points where prices are down, and being aware of the volatility there.
Yeah, so what somebody can do to kind of minimize that or help that process is, one, buy quality stocks and hold them for the long term. If you have a long-term mindset, quality investments do tend to grow over time. There are the years where we see it or experience pullbacks, but that long-term mindset will help generate a positive outcome more often than not. And then you also could pick stocks from different sectors of industry, and even stocks that are domiciled in different countries.
So making sure that you have a wide variety in your portfolio really is definitely important. And what about whenever it comes to things like bonds and certificates of deposits?
Great question. So those are fixed income investments. Bonds do still have some risk on their value. They are interest rate sensitive, and they are sensitive to credit conditions. And so when interest rates rise, bond prices come down, because if I'm holding a bond and then interest rates go on the rise, investors should be able to find bonds that are new issues at a better rate of interest. Therefore, they're not as attracted to the one that I currently own. And vice versa. Interest rates move down, bond prices come up, because again, those new fixed income debt instruments that are issued aren't paying quite as effectively. Now, if somebody wants to get to guarantees on their principal, then that's where you mentioned CDs or certificates of deposit. CDs don't have any risk of your principal going down, but they do, however, have reinvestment risk. The risk that what you're getting paid today when they mature or come due will be a pay cut or a declining rate of return. And so in that space, investors should try to ladder and own CDs across different maturity time frames. That way, if rates are declining, some of their longer term CDs are paying them a little bit better.
Right. Okay. And then real quick, Gabe, what about when it comes to not investing? What risks are there?
So that one's pretty easy. If somebody wants to be able to retire, we've got to be able to save some money for the future, and we have to have a willingness to take on some risk. For somebody like me, retirement's still a long ways away, so I can afford to take on more risk to try to grow my money at a higher rate of return. It's not that I shouldn't ever own safe instruments like CDs, but as a younger investor who's years away from retirement, most of my focus for performance should be on stocks or stock-based mutual funds. If I have short-term goals, like potentially a down payment on a home, an upcoming vacation, that's where it makes sense to park your monies in those shorter-term, safer instruments that do a better job of protecting your principal.
Excellent. Great job of breaking this down for us. How do we get in touch with you over at Edward Jones, Gabe, to go over financial goals or building our investment portfolios?
So anybody can locate our office if they do a search on the internet for Edward Jones. We're also located on the South Belt down near the Tractor Supply and the Walmart. If somebody wants to walk in and introduce themselves, let us know a little bit about their circumstances. We'd be glad to get you scheduled and learn more.
Excellent. Gabe Rockers with Edward Jones. Gabe, thanks again for joining us, giving us these tips.
Yes, thank you all again for having me. Have a good week.
Of course, you as well.